Have you ever felt like you acted before you even decided? Maybe you said something you didn't mean, opened an app without thinking, or reached for food you didn't really want. It's almost as if your brain moved first and you only noticed after. Why does this happen? Why does the brain sometimes decide before we're aware? And if it's true that a part of us runs on autopilot, is there a way to pause, break that loop, and choose differently? Tonight we're going to find out. This isn't magic, it's real science and ancient wisdom showing how the mind works. You'll discover why the brain can act before awareness, how people for thousands of years have trained themselves to stop automatic impulses, and what modern neuroscience says about the tiny window where you can step in and change what happens next. Stay until the end, because I'll show you a simple 1-minute ritual to catch your brain before it takes over, so you can stop living on autopilot and take back control of your actions. Why does it feel like we sometimes act before we even think? Picture this, you promise yourself you'll check your phone less. Yet, the moment you wake up, your hand is already unlocking the screen before you even realize it. Or you tell yourself you'll stay calm in a tough conversation, and still a sharp comment slips out before you can stop it. Sometimes you decide to eat healthy, but suddenly find yourself halfway through a bag of snacks, wondering who made that choice. It feels as if there is a gap, a tiny space where the action starts before the conscious you shows up. That space can make life feel like it's happening on autopilot. People have wrestled with this question long before science existed. Aristotle believed we could train our habits through reason. He said that virtue, living as the person you want to be, comes from shaping what you do automatically until it follows your better judgment. To him, the mind could be taught to steer those impulses, but only if you practice awareness and choice again and again. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said something striking. Between stimulus and response, there is power. He taught that we can always control what first happens inside us, the trigger, but we can control what comes next if we pause. He believed this pause could be strengthened like a muscle. Seneca, another Stoic, advised preparing the mind ahead of time. He wrote that we are often dragged by impulse like slaves, unless we stop to reflect. He suggested rehearsing possible triggers before they happen, so when the moment comes, you're less likely to react without thinking. From the East came a different but complementary idea. Buddha taught mindfulness, noticing the exact moment a thought or impulse arises, without fighting or judging it. The act of simply seeing it breaks its automatic power. In meditation, they practiced watching urges like clouds in the sky. They come, they pass, and you are not forced to follow them. Even everyday sayings echo this wisdom. We've all heard, count to 10 before you speak or think before you act. These aren't just cliches, they're ways of creating a pause, a gap where freedom can exist. What all these voices share is a simple but profound belief. You may not control the first spark inside the brain, but you can step in before it becomes action. You can create a space to choose if you train for it. For thousands of years, humans have tried to live with more intention. Aristotle trained reason. The Stoics practiced the pause. Buddhists watch the moment an urge appears. They didn't know brain scans or signals, but they sensed what modern science is now confirming, that something starts before we're aware, and that awareness itself can interrupt the chain. Next, we'll see how today's neuroscience explains this hidden process and shows that these ancient practices were right. There really is a brief window where you can stop autopilot and reclaim control. What is really happening in the brain when you feel like you've acted before you even decided? Neuroscientists have found something called the readiness potential, a tiny, electrical signal in the brain that appears just before you make a movement. In classic experiments, people were asked to press a button whenever they felt like it. The surprising part? The brain showed this readiness potential hundreds of milliseconds before the person consciously felt the urge to move. In other words, the brain had already started preparing the action before the conscious you said, "I'm going to do this." At first, this discovery seemed to say we have no free will at all. But later research gave us a more hopeful picture. While the brain may start an action early, there's a small window, scientists call it the veto window. Sometimes even free won't. It's a brief moment when you can still cancel or change what your brain just started. You might feel this in everyday life. The instant before saying something hurtful, you feel a flash and you can swallow the words. Or the moment your hand is reaching for the snack and you stop halfway, that's the veto window. This means your life isn't doomed to autopilot. The brain might launch impulses, but awareness can intercept them before they turn into full action. Another important piece is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and build new patterns. Each time you notice an impulse and choose differently, you're strengthening new circuits for control. It's like building a path. The more you walk it, the clearer and faster it gets. Science also shows that practices like mindfulness literally change the brain. People who meditate build stronger connections in areas that regulate attention and inhibit automatic responses. That means the pause Epictetus talked about isn't just an idea. It is a skill you can train and the brain adapts. Even something as simple as slow breathing helps. When you breathe deeply and slowly, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the part that calms stress and helps the prefrontal cortex, irrational brain, step back in. It's why people say, take a deep breath before you react. Physiology and neuroscience back it up. So here's what all this really means. Your brain can start an action before you're aware of it. That's the readiness potential. But that doesn't mean the story is over. There's a small moment, almost like a crack in the automatic chain, where you can still step in and say no. That's what scientists call the Veta window. I like to think of it as the last exit before the action goes on autopilot. Every time you catch yourself in that tiny space and choose differently, you're not just winning once, you're literally reshaping your brain. That's neuroplasticity. The more you interrupt an old pattern, the weaker it gets and the stronger your new path becomes. And you can make this pause easier to find. Practices like mindfulness train your attention so you notice the urge sooner. Slow, deep breathing calms the nervous system and lets your rational brain step in. It's the same reason people say, take a breath before you react. It's not just advice, it's biology. Put all of this together and the picture changes. Yes, impulses begin below awareness, but they're not destiny. You can notice them, pause, and rewrite the script, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. Stay with me because next I'll guide you through a simple 1-minute ritual that helps you catch your brain before it takes over, so you can break autopilot and take back real control. We've explored a lot tonight. You've seen how ancient wisdom already sensed what science later proved. Aristotle believed we could train our habits through reason. Epictetus taught that between what happens and how we respond, there's power, and we can strengthen that pause. Seneca advised preparing the mind so impulses don't drag us like slaves. Buddha showed that simply noticing an urge can break its automatic pull. You've also seen what modern neuroscience discovered. The readiness potential, that spark of activity, shows your brain may start to act before you feel the decision. But there's a Veta window, a small moment where you can step in and change the course. Every time you catch yourself and choose differently, you reshape your brain through neuroplasticity. Mindfulness sharpens your awareness. Slow breathing calms the nervous system so your rational brain can step in. All of this leads to one clear truth: you're not powerless. Your brain may move first, but you can still rewrite what happens next. The more you practice stepping in, the easier it gets. Now imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and instead of living on autopilot, you start noticing the tiny signals before an impulse takes over. Your hand reaches for the phone, but this time you feel the moment and stop. A harsh reply rises, but you catch it before it leaves your mouth. You feel the pull of an old habit, but pause, breathe, and choose something better. Each time you do this, you're not just winning one battle. You're rewiring the very circuits that kept you stuck. Let's train this skill right now with a 1-minute ritual you can use anytime you want to break the loop. First, pause where you are. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 2, then exhale gently through your mouth for 6. Do this 3 times. Each exhale tells your body, it's safe, I'm aware, I'm choosing. Now bring to mind a small action you want to change, maybe checking your phone, snacking without thinking, or reacting in anger. As you breathe, notice the feeling just before the action would happen. Don't judge it, just see it. Whisper to yourself, I see this urge. I don't have to follow it. Picture a stop sign or a gentle hand pushing pause. Then take one more calm breath and imagine doing the action you actually want instead, putting the phone down, staying silent, walking away. Feel yourself choosing on purpose. This little practice is powerful because it works right where the brain is vulnerable. Slow breathing calms your stress response and gives the rational brain a chance to step in. Noticing the urge shines a light on the readiness potential and directs it. Visualizing the better action strengthens the neural path for control. The more you use this minute in quiet moments, before tough conversations, Whenever you catch yourself, the stronger your ability to stop autopilot becomes. Over time, the pause grows, choices return. Your life stops running itself and starts following your intention. If you try this tonight or tomorrow, watch for the moment when you first feel the urge. Catch it, pause, choose, then come back and tell us in the comments what happened. Your story might help someone else break free too. And if this video helped you feel less like a passenger in your own life, subscribe now. Every video here blends ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience to help you reprogram your mind and live with more control, peace, and purpose.